everyone. My name's Jason Scott, and welcome to the Voice of the Nerd.
Hi, I'm Joel David Reed, and this is Game Talk.
Well, my question, I want to ask you a question. Your first time, did it make you feel uncomfortable? Did you, were you nervous? Did you, was it over too fast? Was it like, kind of just didn't feel right at the time? Were you nervous?
What are you? Are you keeping this E for everyone, dude?
Oh, no. Don't start fogging up the windows here. I'm talking about your first gaming experience.
Oh.
Basically,
getting into some risky territory.
Yeah, I know. Well, let's face it. Everybody who is involved in this particular hobby has to go through that first time experience. So that's one of the things that we'd like to talk about this time around. That first time, that first game that you were involved in. So that's the question we're going to address today. What was memorable? What was memorable about your first time?
Oh man, well it depends on what game.
What was the first game that you played?
I don't think shooting out streetlights for fun counts.
No. There's no rules here for that.
I think as far as like tabletop games or any of that, I think just D&D with my cousin running.
Mm-hmm. Well, so tell me a little bit about it. What happened? I mean, what did you guys? What did you find out, or what did you?
It was very off the cuff. It was, he helped me and another cousin of mine make a character sheet, and we had no idea what was going on. And he just kind of like, okay, if you can think it up, just do it, and I'll tell you if you did it or not based on whatever you roll.
Yeah.
And it's very confusing to me because there were like no rules laid out. There was no module we were following. It was just like he was just drawing a map as we went along, and it was just 100% out of his head, and I had no idea what was going on. It wasn't until many years later that many years later that I came back to D&D and played, that I really considered like the actual time I actually played D&D.
Nice. Well, I remember my first game. Well, you had those first initial. It was the red box, so we're talking old school. But the red box, there was a module that was in it called the Keep in the Borderlands. Now, this was the first time, and I was actually I was a little kid at the time with the little plastic dice and the wax crayon to color in all the little the crevices. And so that game got me started, but the game that really started the whole process for me was Star Frontiers.
Oh, Star Trek.
No. There was an actual game put out by TSR. It was called Star Frontiers, and basically it was the Mutiny on the Eleanor Morez. Now, here was the thing about the Star Frontiers. It took. I'm all of maybe 10, at the time, and these were something that like you'd seen board games, you'd seen like these other games that were supposedly age appropriate in terms of these things, but these were games that started to ask real questions in terms of like, all right, well, the existence of aliens. We're talking about the existence. You now had to choose. All right. What were they like? Now I had to start making decisions about what kind of a character I played. And in a lot of ways, one of the first things that happened is you start to ask yourself questions about like, well, what kind of a character do I want to be? And then you start to kind of ask yourself, well, what kind of a person do I want to be? Sometimes.
Yeah, I found myself asking that when I came back to D&D and people were talking about alignment, and I'm like, well, what the heck is that mean? So,
well,
and then exactly, you have to start evaluating, who am I?
Yeah,
what do I want to do?
If I remember correctly, the original alignment system from like these old games was very, very basic, and it wasn't until later on where you started to get into like a little bit more shades of different directions that you started to get it. But there was this question of like, well, am I good? Am I neutral? Am I evil? And then, or do I want to play, a character of one of these three alignments? And you ask yourself, well, wait a minute. What, well, do I play an evil character? Do I play a good character? And what does that mean?
Yeah,
And these are all pretty like heavy questions for like a little kid at the time.
I would definitely say so.
so, so my question is this: so you played your first experience, your first gaming experience
Yeah.
was basically D&D. Now was that like the old? Are we talking? Are we? We're not going on the Wayback Machine here, I assume. Like
I want to say, let's see, this was probably like 2002
2000 and
or 3-ish, maybe. I don't know. So I'm guessing that was third edition.
third. Well,
maybe.
I think that was 3.5, but
I don't know.
But regardless, no. Now here you're involved in a game that essentially has such a huge history. Now my question is, was that your first gaming experience? Did you play with family? Did you play with?
Yeah, it was with my two cousins, and I remember my parents had a huge stigma against Dungeons and Dragons because of the fact that it was Satan's game, and it had this really huge stigma, and of course, growing up in Texas, small town mentality. But
Texas,
so
I
we
can't
had to keep it.
imagine,
I knew I couldn't tell my parents about it, so it had to be a secret, and I couldn't really.
Really?
Talk about,
You did the whole secret thing. You did the whole
totally
you were a
like
secret gamer.
keep it a secret, and until finally, I started gaming like well after I had graduated high school, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm old enough for my parents to like, come on, you can't tell me that I can't play this now.
Well, and it's like I consider myself like fortunate in that I didn't have the tremendous stigma in terms of like the whole satanic panic, it's of the devil, and it's like as time went on, actually it was kind of funny because my first characters were like priest characters and things like that. So my parents would see me playing a priest, and they say, "Oh, maybe he's going to become a minister." And it's like, "Oh, well, sorry, mom." But the question becomes, so you had to deal with a certain stigma, back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, how did anybody else? Did you like back in the day? Did you have like gaming friends that also had to deal with that kind of stigma, or was it just just your family?
I was a theater kid, so there was already like 80 stigmas. But actually, I do know a game that I did that it was the first LARP I went to. It was Vampire Masquerade, and I was friends with one of the people in charge who were like the storytellers. And he just whipped up a character for me and made me an 8th generation elder.
Ooh.
Just like, here you go. And he made me this like super stupid powerful character. I had no idea anything about it. And he's like, what do you want? What kind of character? I'm like, I just want to be like a really old world, like Transylvania style vampire. So I picked like, what's the country? Like, I think it's called like Britannia, like some like really just like obscure.
I'd say probably maybe a couple dozen people could find that on.
Yeah, and I had this very thick accent, and I brought all of the theater tricks that I knew. Excellent. I wore a 3-piece suit and a sash, and just like, oh no, I'm here visiting you people, and I'm better than you, okay?
Oh, yeah.
And I just really laid it on thick. Oh yeah, and that was life changing because it's a thing where it's like, one thing I really loved about it was I wasn't acting, I was just being. I could sit there, and I barely spoke to anyone. I just sat there and just looked at people, and they're just like, what is your issue, man? Like, they're like, people came up to me and like, are you okay? Like, and I was like, yeah, it was just really fun.
my as far as my first LARP was basically we all had a science fiction gaming club back in the day.
That's awesome.
It was, and it was especially at a very difficult time because you're talking about like high school, junior, and so as a result, these are years where some kids, they have trouble forming those kind of connections in terms of like their peers. So we all had this one. It was called the Altered Universe Sci-Fi Gaming Club, and what we did was we had a teacher. We had an English teacher. I believe she's still around. His name was Rosemary Stevens. We had an English teacher who was the sponsor of the club, and we would get together and we would do a Star Trek LARP. So, and we're not talking about like new, and we're talking about old school, primary color shirts with the little
Nice.
gold emblems and all the
Yes.
all the trimmings.
Real Star Trek.
And real Star TOS, the original series.
Yes.
And we did this for years, for my entire like run through high school.
Wow.
And that was one of those things. It's like other kids would do sports, other kids would do this, but I have friendships that I made at that point in my life that I still keep to this day because of this was my first, LARPing experience. So now the question becomes, how do we expose gaming culture to other people, to the next generation, but do it in such a way so that it becomes a positive, so that it becomes a positive thing.
Also, by the way, if you ever want to like have something to say on these matters, please leave a comment down below, and we want to know what you, the viewer, have to say about this. That's why this is the voice of the nerd. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear what you have to say about this. Are there points that we've missed? Are there? I mean, and that's, I think, something very specific. But
absolutely,
actually, I think when bringing gaming to a new player, one thing I really like, I have a very good friend of mine. His name is Paul. He's the DM of one of the main campaigns of Pathfinder I play. One thing, when I brought a friend to the game very recently, and she had never played before. And one thing I like about it is that he will show you what you need to know on your character sheet as it's needed, instead of just bombard you with information. Oh, this is this is that, this is that, this is this number, this number, this is that number.
Can get a little bit much.
And so he broke it down very simple of, okay, you have this kind of character. All right, then here's this. And it's like, well, what's alignment? Don't worry about that. I want to watch you play, and we're gonna game, and that way you get a feel for what your alignment actually could be. And then it got down to, okay, now you need to learn saving throws because you got a fireball coming at you. So here you go. We're gonna learn saving throws real quick, and so everything was taught as it was needed instead of just being bombarded.
Yeah, it can get a little overwhelming sometimes, especially for a new player.
And I mean, especially how relatively, I think Pathfinder is very, very clean, not too crunchy as far as games go, but.
Now, when you say crunchy, just to make sure that everybody's
just a lot of
statistics, a lot of
data,
that essentially a new player. These are things that a new player basically has to absorb before they could really consider themselves proficient. So that's what crunchy. I just wanted to make sure.
Of course.
But
of course.
So this was so you would say that this was a very positive experience.
And I mean, I think that, she said she had a great time and came back after the game, like, talking about, oh man, my character did this, my character did that, this was really cool. And I really felt like, okay, this was a good experience for them.
Absolutely.
Bringing people to a game should always be
absolutely
enjoyable.
All right, well, you know what? On this note, since one of the things that we're talking about is in terms of getting input from other people in terms of like what it is about these games that essentially brings new people in, what is it that they find to be appealing or attractive. Why don't we go ahead and talk to some of the people and get their input right now?
I think that's a great idea. Jim, thanks for coming back.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah.
So you're the head of the RPG department for Strategicon.
Yes, so to speak, yes.
And so I want to talk to you about RPGs.
All right.
I want to start with, like, what's your favorite RPG? And, your character. What's your favorite character? And that I am fascinated with people's characters and what makes them tick as a gamer.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a really meaty subject. It's hard for me to really pinpoint a favorite role-playing game. I would say right now I'm really enjoying Savage Worlds just because it has a lot of breadth in the style of genre of game that you can play with it. It's a very simple system that you can apply to just about anything.
Oh, yeah.
And it always tends to work pretty well. And one of the things that I really look for in role-playing game systems is the ability for players to be vested in the narrative and be able to really impact the direction of the story versus being told a story by a GM or basically just put through paces.
So tell me about your characters.
Well, I like playing cowboys. I've discovered time and time again, and in different genres. I sort of tend to gravitate towards the lone gunman type, or the type of guy who has his own personal code of ethics and doesn't like to really kowtow to other people's morality or other people's thoughts. I think it's wrong. It's just wrong, and I'm going to do something about it.
So very Chuck Connors, the rifleman kind of thing.
Very
going
much,
on.
yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm attracted to those type of characters. But one of the things that I love about role playing, and I think that is the true art form of it, is the fact that it gives me the opportunity to explore factions of or aspects of myself that I wouldn't necessarily explore in real life.
Oh yeah, and I know that you've told me that you have a background in theater, and how do you bring that aspect to gaming?
Well, there are a lot of basic things that I bring to gaming that come from theater and come from things like improvisational comedy. So the concept of yes and is a very important concept when you're actually freeform role playing or LARPing. The rules that apply to that kind of entertainment also apply to role playing games very, very well, because what you're doing is you're trying to create a fecund ground for the story. So when you respond positively to other people's ideas, to the GM's ideas, and the GM does the same to you, you're actually everybody feels included in the narrative and more excited about the narrative as
and
they're
then the story
creating
can
it.
move. Yeah,
exactly. When you come into problems is when either the GM doesn't give you enough direction, or you don't, or you're not focused enough on the story to pick up on the elements that you're supposed to be following.
So what's the first game you played that got you
First
into
game.
it?
Okay, my friend Chris, back in the day, played role-playing games when he was younger, and I said I'd never played any. So he said, "Okay, I know what to do. You're a science fiction guy, right?" "Yeah, I love sci-fi. I'm a Star Trek, Star Wars nerd." He goes, "I'm gonna run you through Expedition to Barrier Peaks," which was a module for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that basically you're a fantasy party that walks into a crashed spaceship
and they think
that has
it's like
been there for a while.
And they think it's like a temple.
And they think it's like a temple or a dungeon, but it's actually and if you don't know anything about it, now it's a very famous thing, but I didn't know anything. So I went into this expecting a classic dungeon, and when I started developing the idea, holy crap, there are robots. I'm in an abandoned spaceship, and it was quite a surprise and a reveal. It was really, really great. I played all 6 of the characters myself.
That's really awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really great. And the fight with a boulet at the end was incredible. It was just a fun experience.
Well, thank you very much for coming down. I really appreciate it, and please come back again.
Oh yeah, anytime you want me, you got me.
All right, thank you very much, Jim.
No problem.
Hi, this is my good friend Paul Kasmala. He is an amazing filmmaker, just awesome guy, a very good friend of mine, and he is also an avid gamer. And I wanted to talk to you about, what is your favorite game to play?
Favorite game to play has to be Werewolf.
Well,
Or of RPs? Okay, I would probably say Pathfinder or 5th edition. I like 5th edition a lot because it...
Well, when you say Werewolf, you're talking about the...
social deduction game.
Awesome, okay. Just for clarification, there's
I think there's
3 Werewolf games.
Maybe. I'm talking about the one
Yeah,
that
yeah,
was based
yeah,
on Mafia.
okay.
That was in
Right,
1987. 86, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the history of that game.
Yeah. Awesome. And what about that game attracts you?
Well, I've always not been that good socially, so just having a, for lack of a better word, safe space to practice social interactions and really get a good look at how people hide information and be able to pick up on those social cues. It's a really good tool for people who don't socialize all that well.
Interesting. Very cool.
It's very helpful.
So what kind of... and I know some people have considered... Like, I was told that when I started, like, Werewolf, yeah, it's kind of a role-playing game. And I know you do have a role to play. But it's like... So, I mean, like, is there a way to actually play a character rather than... I know me when I'm being, like, just want to just make things weird for everyone, and I'll totally just come up with an improv character and bring it to the game, and everyone's like, "Wait, what are you doing?" But like, I mean,
Well, I mean, I've been with some groups where everyone introduces themselves. Well, I'm the village baker, but that's usually as deep as it goes. And sometimes the accusations get as ridiculous as, well, he bakes bread. He's a werewolf.
no,
Generally, it doesn't help you at all to claim like I'm the village baker, because that just outs you as a target.
well, see, no,
And the whole game is how well can you hide as a werewolf and as a villager.
I remember one of the last games I played. I came in, and I specifically like went in with another guy, knowing we were gonna do like a Sherlock Holmes and Watson thing, and I just threw on like a very like Carrie always like accent. I'm Professor Beans Broderick, and I'm here to investigate this chain of murders in this village. I'm going to bust this case wide open, and if you don't think I can, clearly you don't know Beans. And it was
that's
so
so
bad.
bad.
I know, but the thing was,
So bad.
everyone was like, "What?" And then through introductions, it got like a guy started trying to make fun of it with an English accent, and by the time we got all the way back around, it was just Cockney accents, just bad Cockney accents, and
Oh, man.
no one was comfortable, but
That
everyone
sounds
was
like
having
a
fun.
lot of fun to play and not a lot of fun to watch.
But I mean, I was killed very quickly, but the spirit lived on, and there was like because there was another guy who was playing like a kind of a Watson character, and so he was like, "What kind of backwater justice is this? My friend was no werewolf," and then everyone like started looking at it as a murder investigation, kind of like
Okay.
in Mafia, but
Okay.
but it was really my character
I
was
mean,
super long-winded.
That's one of my favorite parts about Mafia is you get into those really tense moments,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're like, you spend like 10 minutes on the stand defending yourself from getting killed during the day. We were just 10
Yeah.
minutes like this long filibuster speech, like, no, I got the last word. If you're going to hang me, you're going to understand you hung an innocent man.
Oh yeah.
And to get away with that and succeed in that dangerous spot as a werewolf, there are very few things more satisfying.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. So in RPs, what is your favorite character type?
I would have to say probably a sorcerer. I was never much a fan of the general wizarding class. The idea of preparing spells and
Homework.
homework. There's got a lot of words. But sorcerer, that's be able to say, hey, I got these spells. I'll use that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But actually, favorite kind of magic caster to use is the wordsmith from Pathfinder. And what you do is you have targeting words,
Yeah.
you have spell words, and then you have effect words. So the targeting words is like cone, touch, beam, and the other thing. So you craft your own spell
So almost
on
like
the
Dragon
spot.
Shouts from Skyrim.
I have not played Skyrim.
Well, you have like 3 words, and it has to do with. Anyways,
It sounds similar, yeah, but it's like target, spell, bonus.
Oh, that is cool.
And the amount of words you have determines how big your spells. You can only have a cone if you really want. I don't know why. You probably would want to take a touch and
Yeah,
go
but
line.
that is really cool.
I mean, if all you wanted to do was breathe fire, which would be,
I mean, why not?
there are worse superpowers.
Can boil eggs by holding them.
Or putting it inside of a watch.
Okay, so tell me about your first gaming experience. Like, what brought you to the gaming world?
Board gaming or like RP? Okay.
Whatever one, man.
Oh, I started board gaming before I went with the role playing,
Okay.
and I started at a get together from Meetup.com over in Fullerton, and it was run as a board game group, and it would meet every week, and we'd just play board games. I started playing Settlers of Catan, and then from Settlers of Catan right to High Frontier, which, to anyone who has heard of the game, congratulations.
Yeah.
To those who haven't, it's a 6-hour game that is rocket calculations. It's literally rocket science.
Jeez.
Literally rocket science.
See, that sounds okay. I'm a math nut, so I know that sounds like a lot of fun to me, but like I know most people would probably be like, "What?"
It's a surprising amount to keeping your head at once. And all in all, board games were my end.
Very cool. So what was your first RP experience then?
Actually, technically earlier. It was I was 13, and it was through a cousin's friends at my grandmother's church
Okay.
playground area, and it was back 3.5 was the thing.
Yeah.
It just came out, and a cousin had it, and he wanted to play. I was like, okay, I'll try it. I was young and dumb and didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I got back into it later, like in my 20s. I was like, okay, this is what this is about. I got this.
Very
I got
cool.
this. Young me didn't understand. Got this.
Very cool. Well, thank you for coming down. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode. Thank you very much for watching. If you would like to be on the show and be interviewed or have something to say, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe. We would love to hear what you have to say. This is the Voice of the Nerd, where your voice should be heard.
And remember, we're going to be at Orcon this President's Day weekend. So we'd love to hear from you and love to share in this crazy thing that we all do. So we hope to see you there. And in the meantime, you take care of yourself.
Thank you very much.